All right, good afternoon. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Market, interesting day. And, when we go through option expiration and then the next Monday, it tends to be a really interesting time or a really dull time. This one's been pretty interesting. We've had quite a bit of movement. Last night we saw futures roll over during the European session, not during the Asian session. Even though all the headlines were about the U.S. and China, but the rollover was during the European session. Then the market opened this morning and in a very choppy way pushed on higher, but it's just been bleeding the rest of the day, and not on a lot of volume, not on a lot of news or activity, just a kind of everybody forgot it's Monday afternoon trade in the market, and that's really kind of what it looks like. The tech weakness out there is pronounced. It's very significant compared to other groups and other sectors. In fact, you have financials, you have healthcare, utilities, all trading in the green here today, with tech down over 2%. We don't see that very often, but that's a direct, that's a direct or a direct consequence of the U.S.-China stuff here, with some of the tit for tat on the Chinese tech company that I'm not even going to try to pronounce here because I do botch it every single time. So nothing too much to take from the market today. There aren't levels where you go, well, this level and then this level and this level is important right here, that level. Not with where the market is right now. There just isn't. It's sometimes there are levels that are important. One thing I'm kind of watching for is this trend line here that we've had. We had the market trade down in a relative channel over the last 2.5 weeks. Broke out of that channel on Wednesday last week, and coming back, and does it retest that channel? 2820 is kind of that retest of the channel if we were to draw our lines a little more accurately. But, I think that's going to be a very interesting test, more important than a retest of 2,800. And I know as we go lower, the talk could be 2,800, and yeah, that'll matter. But, if the market's going higher, it's probably not going to get down to 2,800. It'll probably bounce before then. I'm kind of looking at that channel. But the reality is when we go and we then take something like NASDAQ futures, we have a little bit of a different view. The channel down here on the NASDAQ was, here if I draw it, was broken to the downside. And then, rehashed or revisited, rebounded, pushed on higher, and we have seen the market or the NASDAQ come down towards the low end of this channel. So it's kind of getting there. Another 30, 40 points lower would still be, in the realm of feasibility with that. But then you take a look at something like the Dow, and, it just looks a lot different. You take a look at small caps. Let's see here. We'll just go with the IWM. But it kind of has that, some of that look here, associated with it. So we see that forming on up, and I think that could turn into a very interesting pattern as the week progresses. But there's nothing about an exact level when it comes to that pattern here in the market. So we're seeing some of the, recent, winners, the KB Homes of the world, the Disneys of the world pulling on back today. Adobe's pulling on back. Some of the big laggards of late, the FedExes and the Triple M's, they're pulling on back. The Alibabas, in fact, the Chinese internet space is getting hit hard here today with some of the action. We saw Baidu downgraded this morning, and you can see the earnings reaction on Baidu last week. Man, we have a stock that was 180 30 days ago. 35 days ago, it was trading at 180, and it's at 120. Baidu has lost 33%, a third of its value in just over a month. remarkable. Baba's lost quite a bit, but nowhere near the same percentage that Baidu has lost. And during the time period, JD is only down fractionally. So, Baidu getting hit in a very big way. We do see others like Sina, getting rolled over. Sohu in that space, back to its lows. Entes, which is in that space, holding up very well. Normal for that space, but is definitely helping to bring it on down. Now the challenge, let's go take a look at it here. No new signals here this afternoon. I was kind of surprised. I thought for sure Raytheon would trigger, but it didn't. And, it puts itself in a pretty interesting position because Raytheon could be down $1 tomorrow morning and actually trigger to the bullish side. We don't see that very often. We saw that with J&J this morning. The stock was down about 15 cents before I got on video and it had triggered bullish. Even though it was down a little bit. But, we don't see that very often. Raytheon is in that position, for that to happen. So let's go take a look. We have the J&J trade that we entered here this morning, and I filled in all the data. I didn't do it live on video. I did it shortly after, but the stop price and profit levels and everything else there. So 136.65 is the stock exit level. It's right now 138.26, so we're well away from that. So nothing to change or adjust here with J&J. We'll run with this into the close here today. The market vibe is unchanged here today. And, you say, well, the market's moved 20 points. Shouldn't that change it? Yeah, you would expect it to. And I kind of would expect it to. But, it didn't. And in fact, if we come in and we look at some things like a bullish percent index, for instance, there's just no change in it, right? We're not seeing the metrics here today with any real material change. And so we're still in that neutral that was triggered on Thursday last week. Here for the market vibe, and, in a position where we could see a renewed bear signal come in very soon or a renewed bull signal come in very soon. And any of those could happen. It wouldn't take much for it to trigger. But what do we know about this market? When the market vibe goes to neutral, it tends to stay there, right? This is something where when the market vibe has gone to neutral, it's... let me come in here. I have the wrong browser here, so it won't have all my stuff saved in. So let's see here. Let me pull up the other browser and grab that over here for us. Here we go. But when the market vibe ticks into neutral, there are times where it lasts for a day or two, right? We saw that right here. We saw it right here. But historically, when it goes to neutral, it lasts a while. It lasts a while in what this market has been. And so we're in that neutral territory. I would not be surprised to see it last a while. But it is in a position where it could change and change very quickly without even the market itself having to see the indexes move to a great degree there. Now, I did mention I was surprised that we didn't see Raytheon trigger here today. Raytheon's up about 350, and you can see this thing triggered on the downside right here and whipsawed, right? Whipsawed after the trigger, and okay, a lot of times after a whipsaw trigger, we get a trigger the other way, but that isn't coming in today. I was a little surprised, to see that, but we'll see what tomorrow brings. We could definitely see something there. We could see a bear signal come in on Nike fairly soon, but didn't trigger here today. Altria is one that had a chance to trigger on the bullish side, but not quite there here today. Okay, so that's kind of where some of these sit. Tomorrow morning, maybe we'll go through the entire list, kind of show some that are close, some that, probably are still weeks out. Like I keep getting asked about Apple, right? And my response is, it's not going to trigger today. It's not going to trigger tomorrow. It's not going to trigger next week. It's going to take some time. When a stock makes a move like this, it normally takes some time. It doesn't mean Apple can't keep on going lower or can't rebound higher. But to trigger for the algorithm, right? The algorithm's looking for new and emerging trends, not for stuff that breaks down off of new highs, right? Great. You know what? One hit a new high and broke down. You're not going to see algorithm triggers come in with that, right? Nor are we going to see something where it hits a new low and then, all of a sudden it just, takes off and, the bull signal for the algorithm comes in. It's not going to happen. It's generally off of, bear signals off of lower highs, bull signals off of higher lows when it comes down to it. So there are quite a few stocks in positions like this where, they're just not that close. They're just not that close, but there are a lot that are close, to signaling here. We saw Chipotle trigger last week, and it continues to push on higher here, and probably too late here for an entry on it. But anyway, that's Chipotle. Now this week, right? Today's kind of the market's trying to digest a lot. But this week we don't have a lot of earnings, right? It's not going to be an earnings week. It's going to be one where we start to see, the market focus a little bit more on some of the economic data, but not here early in the week. I do think this consumer confidence flash number out of Europe is going to be interesting. I don't know that it could be market moving. We'll see the FOMC minutes on Wednesday. That will definitely get a reaction in the market, right? That will happen. We'll get a 10-point reaction one way or the other, and then the market will go back to where it was before the minutes, and then it'll decide to move, right? We see that happen every time. But here as we get into Friday or Thursday, to me this is where this question of, are we really seeing the economic data uptick right now? Because that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing some upticks here for May. And, we saw a little bit of uptick in February, March, a downtick in April. We're now starting to see some uptick in May, which would be very interesting and really, I think, spark some real reaction from fund managers. We'll have the ECB minutes, which will probably be dry and boring and say the same thing they've said for years. So no real movement there off of that. But these PMI flash numbers that we'll see, so the Eurozone PMI composite flash, this is going to be the first kind of look at May data in Europe that we will have. And you can see the prior was 51.3. This is expected to be 51.7. Manufacturing is supposed to uptick, and services are supposed to uptick. Manufacturing has been contracting. So this is going to be one where if manufacturing goes green, if it goes over 50, we're going to see the market chase higher, and it will gap up in the morning strongly, and it will chase higher, barring any other massive negative headlines. If we see this miss, we're going to be dealing with a gap lower, and I think that's, I think it's going to be that critical in terms of some of the short-term action and maybe even some of the longer-term action overall. Then we'll get the same data here in the U.S., PMI composite flash here in the U.S. That will be released, and the expectations are a little higher here in the U.S. As they have been, and I don't expect that we'll see a miss in the data here in the U.S. Given some of the regional reports we've seen, there's a decent chance that some of the PMI composite flash data actually does better than what the estimated numbers are right now. So, that's what's on deck here for the market. For the market this week, we're going to have quite a bit of Fed speak. The Fed speak, though, isn't all in unison anymore. It's right now, it's not the Fed, all members of the Fed coming out and preaching the same messages the way we have seen over the last year. Each Fed member, as they have spoken, as they have delivered, different speeches, they've said something a little bit different. right? We saw, who was it, on CNBC this morning, and basically saying, hey, you know what, we could raise rates, we could lower rates. I don't think a path is set. Right. You have others who, like we heard on Friday, who said, no, the next move is going to be to lower the rate. It shouldn't be where it is now. Right. We are hearing different messages from different Fed members, and will be very interesting to see how Fed Chairman Powell kind of speaks to that here tonight. Again, he's speaking, but this isn't something huge. This is what's next for what does the next decade hold. It's a keynote speech here at the Atlanta Federal Reserve. So, it's not in front of Congress or something like that. That would be watched a lot closer. But you can see, we have Fed members all week, even including the minutes. And then after the minutes come out, we almost always see a parade of Fed members here. We have a few, 4 of them, speaking here the next day. All right. So that's what's on tap here for the markets. Tomorrow we'll kick in, take a look at two different indicators. We'll do that here around noon Eastern time. I'll be back on video here in the morning to react to any signals that come in here tomorrow morning and run from there. Thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a fantastic evening, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.